And what we're going to do is we're going to measure 1 cubic centimeter of clay. So I tore off a piece of clay, and then I'm going to run it around in circles in my hands, and then I'm going to pinch it on both sides. Not necessarily pinch it, I'm just mashing it with my fingers like this to form a cube. And then I'm going to grab my ruler and measure it and see. This is obviously too big. It's 1.5 centimeters. So I have too much clay here, so I'm just going to pinch off a piece of it. And then I'm going to do the same thing over again. You'll probably have to do this several times in order to get down to the right measurement. Because you don't want to go too small. If you're a little too big, that's fine. If you're a little too small, you run into having potential problems occur with the balancing of the rocket, which we don't want those to happen, because then your rocket won't fly straight. It'll actually just go all over the place and be kind of a dangerous projectile. So here we go. We've measured it out. This is a little bit over, which would be fine, as long as you can fit it all inside the nose cone. But I'm just going to pinch off another smaller piece because I'm getting closer. So the closer I get, the less material I remove whenever I repackage it. And then going to mash it down again and see how big of a cube I've come up with. So over here, it's pretty close to 1 centimeter on the one side that I've measured. So I'm going to turn it and measure the next side and say, yeah, it's kind of close to a centimeter. It's a little bit over. And then the side that goes up, I'm going to turn it and measure that as well, which this one's not close to a centimeter. So all sides are over. This amount of clay would work, but I'm going to take off a little bit more, which hopefully will put us right on where we need to be. If it's under, we'll have to add clay to it, which can make this take a little while in order to measure using this method. But this is also free, and all it takes is your ruler, which you've used for a couple other things. So here I've squared out my cube again, and I'm going to measure it. And it's 1 centimeter on that side. And then it is, again, as we can see, 1 centimeter on this side. And then I'm going to take the side that was up and turn it and measure it. And that one's a little bit over, which is fine. This is closer to what we need. And so this is the block I'm going to use. So now that we've measured out our modeling clay, set aside this one. Here's the one we just measured. We're going to smash it into the nose cone. For this, we'll need a ballpoint pen. What we're going to do is take our nose cone off. Go ahead and pull this out so I can not accidentally yank on it while it's drying. And I'm just going to kind of smash our little cube that we just made into some flat pieces and break it up into smaller pieces. Now that I have it in smaller pieces, I'm just going to put it inside, take the pen, and hopefully it slides all the way up in there. Mine is kind of really tight. I actually just mashed my nose cone, which very silly of me to do. You can straighten it out with your fingers though. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And we're basically just going to mash the modeling clay towards the tip of the nose cone. If yours is like mine and it's really tight, it can be difficult to get around where your parachute has been anchored at. If you can't, try finding something that's smaller in order to mash it up in there. You can use all sorts of things like a bamboo skewer. That will work. If you're really creative, you can also try like, a screw and put it down in there. But as you know, it's pointy on one end, so it's going to take a while. And I'm really lazy, so I don't want it to take a while. So I'm just going to use my ballpoint pen because that works for me. It should work with the ballpoint pen. If it doesn't, just next time you make one of these, try and keep that in mind when you're mashing down the anchor for the parachute. Okay, now I've got all my modeling clay shoved down in there. Now we're going to prepare the rocket for launch. What we're going to need is scissors, motor, some scrap paper, a sheet of recovery wadding. It kind of looks a bit like toilet paper, but it's flame retardant. We'll want our glue stick, and we'll need our rocket. I actually have here a zombie rocket, as I refer to them. It's reused the fins and the nose cone from a different rocket, and it's just put on a new body. So I'm going to take my motor and line it up to my sheet and mark it with my finger. It doesn't need to be too precise. And I'm going to cut a strip of paper that is about the width of the motor. If it's a little bit under, a little bit over, it's not a big deal. I'm going to roll the motor around one full time and just kind of have a loose visual marking of how far it goes, and trim it so I have enough paper to wrap around the motor one full time. And now I'm going to cut this into several other pieces. I'm sitting there. I'm going to take the motor, I'm going to slide it in the rocket. See how easily it slides. Mine is really, really easy to slide in. So then I'm going to take one of these sheets of paper and throw some glue on it. I'm going to glue it to the rocket. Be sure you align it so that it starts at the base of the rocket and goes up towards the top. If you end up with a section up here that's not covered in paper, it's not a big deal, but you want to be sure the lower section of the rocket has the paper on it. Then I'm going to insert it in and see how easily it moves. This still moves kind of easy. You can see I'm having a little bit more trouble with it now. What we're doing is a friction fit motor mount, and then we'll also use a tiny bit of glue to completely secure it. Just enough. The goal is to be just enough that it holds it in place and that we can remove it easier later. It's kind of an art. Sometimes you'll mess it up, but remember, body tubes are really easy to make. And this here is getting really tight. It's about how you want it. And we have trouble pushing it back out, so I'm going to grab my pencil and run it down and in, and then gently push it back out. This is about where we want it. So I'm going to, at the base of it, maybe about 1/4 of an inch up, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of material. I'm doing 1/4 inch here. I'm going to put the glue stick on the white parts of our motor mount. Then I'm going to slide it back down in. It's getting really tough right here, so I'm just going to kind of tap it and do whatever it takes to get it in. Just be sure if it's really, really, really hard to put in, like this one's getting really, really hard, you might need to pull it back out and remove some of your material, because you don't want to accidentally crush the rocket in the process of seating the motor, because you'll have to make a new rocket. So there is a point that it's too tight, which I accidentally borderline did it this time around. Since we have glued the motor in, you might be wondering, well, how do we get the motor back out? It's been glued in. Well, we use the glue stick particularly because it's not that strong of a glue. It's strong enough to hold it in for the ejection charge, but should still be removable in the end. So I have my pencil, this rocket that we just packed, I went and fired. I'm going to stick it down in and get the pencil to catch down in the little hole, and then I'm going to push, and the rocket will pop out. Some of the parts of the assembly of seating the rocket engine and removing the rocket engine can take a little bit of hand strength, but it's generally easier to remove it than it is to seat it.